Now let us discuss the three models which explains the structure of atom and has been widely accepted. First model is given by J Thompson in the year 1904. Another important is explained by Ernest Luther IV in the year 1911, and the third is given by Niels Bohr in the year 1913. Let us discuss all one by one. Very primary and simple model has been given by the scientist J Thompson, which was known as plum pudding or watermelon model also. In that he had explained that a sphere of positive charge is present and negatively charged electrons are embedded, like we are having the dry fruits or raisins in the pudding. This model was very primary, very simple. The biggest achievement of this model that he has explained that inside the atom the number of positive and negative charges are equal. So electrically as a whole, the atom is neutral. But besides this achievement, his model was failed to explain the properties of elements, as well as it failed to explain how the positive charges are holding the electrons inside the atom. The conclusions of the experiments of other scientists were also failed to follow this model. So this model has been rejected. After that, in the year 1911, the scientist Ernest Luther IV has given very important conclusions from the gold foil experiment. We are knowing that gold is highly malleable metal. So he has selected very thin foil of gold and he has bombarded the heavy high energy alpha particles on this gold foil. According to these earlier concepts, his assumption was that most of these heavy alpha particles will return back as they will collide with another charge inside the atom. But the observations, the results of this gold foil experiment was remarkable, was incredible. He found three observations mainly, as you can see over here, that most of the alpha particles has been passed from the atom. That he found on the other side, on the another spectrum. Very few particles were deflected at some angle, and only one particle out of 12,000 particles was returning back. He was surprised. And for explaining this, we need to imagine the fencing of iron. Or even if you are imagining the wall. Blindly also, if I will throw something on that wall, and if it is solid, then most of the things will bouncing back, will come to me again. This was the assumption. But most of the rays has been passed. This explains that the wall is not solid. It is like a fencing which is having some gaps in between that. So if you are throwing a stone on that fencings, very few will strike with that and it will come back. But most of these stones will pass from that. So the first important conclusion, that atom is not a solid sphere. It's an hollow object. It is empty from its inside. Most of the rays were passed. Very few were deflected. That means something is scattered inside the atom, or something is revolving inside the atom. And as we are knowing that alpha particles are the particles of the helium atom, which is considered, which is made up of protons, and that's why they are having the positive charge. Now when these positively charged particles are returning, coming back, so one more fundamental concept, as we know that positive repels each other. So the another conclusion we are getting, that something positive is at center. And this something positive, which is having very small size, has almost all the mass of atom at the nucleus. At that time nucleus name was also not known, it was given afterwards. So from all this, three important observations. Rutherford has given the structure of atom like this, that atom is a sphere but it is hollow. The positively charged protons are at center, which is named as nucleus. And the electrons, the negative charge, is revolving around the nucleus in a circular path. So we had got the little bit improvised model than Thomson's model for the structure of atom. Still there was a question. We are knowing that if any object is revolving on a circular path, that motion is accelerated motion, and as a result, why the electrons are not continuously increasing its speed, and as a result of that speed, why it is not falling inside the nucleus as positive negative attracts each other. Why the electrons are remaining in that surrounding portion only. And this drawback of Rutherfords model leads it to reject all the drawbacks of Thomson's model and the Rutherfords model has been overcome by the structure of the atom given by Niels Bohr. He made an important assumption that the electrons which are revolving around the nucleus, they do not radiate any energy. That means they are revolving on a stationary path. He has given the name to this stationary path as orbits. These orbits are around the nucleus. They are discrete. That means we can give the numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4 to them, starting from the nucleus. It is also known as the shells, and for that he has given the alphabets K, L, M and N shells. K shell is the nearest to the nucleus, and then it goes on. So this Bohrs model has given the structure of atom like this, that all positive massive charge is at the center, which is nucleus, which was given by Rutherford. And the important conclusions about electrons, that electrons are revolving in a specific path, and that is orbit. Even he has given the capacity of each orbit, and for that, as we have discussed just now, that K shell is the first shell, L shell is the second shell, and M is third, and it goes on. So the maximum number of electrons accommodated in each orbit is given by the formula 2 into n square. And the second important conclusion he has given, that the shells are filled in stepwise manner. It means that the first orbit means n equals to 1. 1 square, that is 1 multiplied by 2. So the capacity of the nearby orbit of the atom can accommodate only 2 electrons, and that is the complete structure for that orbit. These electrons will not radiate any kind of energy when they will move on a circular path around the nucleus. Second orbit means n becomes 2. So according to this formula 2n square, 2 square is 4 and 4 is multiplied by 2. So the capacity of the second orbit is 8 electrons. So this orbit can accommodate maximum number of electrons as 8, which is known as the octet structure. If the atom is having 7 electrons, then the capacity of the first orbit to accommodate only 2 electrons. So the first orbit near the nucleus will have 2 electrons, and remaining 5 will move in the second orbit. and the capacity of second orbit is 8. That means still that atom can accommodate 3 more electrons, or it is searching for 3 more electrons to complete its outermost orbit, to complete its octet structure. The 7 protons of that atom is at the center. All the 7 protons are in nucleus, and as a result the mass of atom is at the center of that atom. Last one more example. Let us talk about 11 electrons. Now we are knowing that whenever we are having the number of electrons 11, protons will also be of number 11. So the first fact that all the 11 protons will be at the center in the nucleus. The electrons are arranged stepwise. Capacity of first orbit to accommodate 2 electrons. So out of 11 electrons, 2 will be accommodated in first orbit. Then the electrons will be accommodated in the next orbit, and capacity of the second orbit is to accommodate 8 electrons. So next 8 electrons will be accommodated in second orbit, and still 1 electron is left. That 11th electron will go in the third orbit of that atom. Now we are going to discuss the atomic structure of first 20 elements and their combining capacity based on this electronic model. And from this we can get very important concept of the chemistry, for which we had learned to write the formulas earlier, and how that molecules are formed, that we will get from this structure.